Imagine a world where trust is a rare commodity, a luxury that only the fortunate can afford. This is the world of True North 2006, a film set against the harsh, unforgiving backdrop of the North Sea, in a place where survival is the primary instinct. Every decision carries weight, and every action can mean the difference between life and death. This is a story about desperation, moral dilemmas, and the lengths to which people will go when they're pushed to their limits. Our story centers around a Scottish fishing boat crew, men who have spent their lives battling the elements, eking out a living from the unforgiving sea. But as the world changes around them, so too do the challenges they face. With fish stocks dwindling and financial pressures mounting, these men are forced to make a decision that will change their lives forever. It's a decision born out of desperation, a last-ditch effort to keep their livelihoods afloat. But as they soon discover, the cost of survival can be much higher than they ever imagined. The film opens in the cold, gray dawn of a Scottish fishing village. The sea is rough, the sky overcast, and the air is thick with the smell of salt and diesel. This is a place where the only constant is the relentless struggle against nature, where men are defined by their ability to endure. The crew of the fishing boat the Providence is no different. They're a close-knit group, bound together by years of shared hardships and the unspoken understanding that in this line of work, you rely on each other, or you don't survive. The boat is captained by Sean, a man in his late 40s who has spent his entire life at sea. He's a tough, no-nonsense leader, respected by his crew for his experience and his unwavering commitment to their safety. But beneath his gruff exterior, Sean is a man under immense pressure. The fishing industry is in decline, and the debts are piling up. He knows that if things don't improve soon, he'll lose everything: his boat, his livelihood, and the only life he's ever known. Sean's son, Sean Jr., is the youngest member of the crew. In his early 20s, he's still finding his place in the world, caught between the expectations of his father and his own dreams of something different. But with few opportunities in the small village, he feels trapped, bound by loyalty to his family and the unspoken duty to carry on the fishing tradition. Then there's Riley, the first mate and Sean's closest friend. Riley is a man of few words, but his actions speak volumes. He's been with Sean through thick and thin, and there's nothing he wouldn't do for his captain. But even Riley is starting to feel the strain of their situation. He's seen too many of his friends go under, their boats repossessed or sold for scrap, and he knows that the Providence is on the brink of the same fate. The rest of the crew, Mordo, the engineer, and the younger deckhands are all too aware of the precariousness of their situation. They're living on the edge, each day bringing a new challenge, each storm a new test of their resilience. But despite the hardships, there's a camaraderie among them, a shared sense of purpose that keeps them going. They trust each other with their lives, and that trust is what keeps them afloat until it's tested in ways they never could have imagined. One day, as they return to port after another disappointing haul, Sean is approached by a local businessman with a proposition. The man is well known in the village, a figure of authority who's involved in various enterprises, some legitimate, some less so. He's heard about Sean's financial troubles and offers a way out. It's a simple deal. Sean will use the Providence to smuggle a group of illegal immigrants from China to the UK. The pay is substantial, more than enough to clear his debts and secure the future of the boat. At first, Sean is horrified by the idea. He's a fisherman, not a criminal. But as the man lays out the details, the full extent of his desperation begins to sink in. The fishing industry is dying, and there's no lifeline in sight. If he doesn't take this offer, he'll lose everything. The thought of seeing his boat, his life taken away, is too much to bear. Against his better judgment, he agrees, convincing himself that it's a one-time thing, a necessary evil to keep them afloat. But the decision doesn't sit well with everyone. Riley is furious when he finds out. He's always been the moral compass of the crew, the one who keeps them grounded in what's right. To him, this deal is a betrayal of everything they stand for. But Sean, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, pleads with him to understand. It's for the boat, for their future. Reluctantly, Riley agrees to go along, but the tension between them is palpable. Sean Jr., on the other hand, sees it as an opportunity. He's never been as tied to the fishing life as his father, and the prospect of easy money is tempting. He convinces himself that it's just a job, no different from any other, and that once it's done, they can go back to their normal lives. But deep down, he knows that things will never be the same. The day arrives, and the crew sets out under the cover of darkness to meet the cargo group of Chinese immigrants who have paid a small fortune for the chance at a better life in the UK. They're crammed into a small, makeshift hold in the boat's hull, hidden from sight, with only the barest of provisions to sustain them for the journey. As they sail into the open sea, the mood on board is tense. The crew goes about their duties with a sense of unease, knowing that they're no longer just fishermen, but criminals. The immigrants are scared, hungry, and sick, their faces etched with the desperation that drove them to this point. Sean tries to keep the crew focused, reminding them that it's just a job, that they're doing what they have to do to survive. But the reality of their situation is inescapable. As the days pass, the journey takes its toll. The weather turns, and they're battered by a relentless storm that pushes the boat and the crew to its limits. The immigrants, hidden below deck, suffer in silence, their fear and discomfort growing with each passing hour. Sean Jr., who had initially been indifferent to their plight, begins to feel the weight of their suffering. He sees them as more than just cargo. They're human beings, with hopes and dreams just like his own. The realization gnaws at him, but he keeps it to himself, knowing that voicing his doubts would only create more tension. Riley, too, is struggling. He's always prided himself on doing the right thing, but now he's complicit in something he can't justify. Every time he looks at Sean, he's reminded of the trust they built over the years, a trust that's now tainted by this decision. He wants to believe that they're still the same men they were before, but he can't shake the feeling that they've crossed a line they can never come back from. As the storm rages on, the situation on board deteriorates. The immigrants are becoming increasingly ill, and the cramped conditions below deck are unbearable. Murdo, the engineer, discovers that the boat's old engine is struggling with the added weight, and they're losing fuel at an alarming rate. If they don't reach their destination soon, they'll be stranded in the middle of the North Sea. The tension among the crew reaches a breaking point when one of the immigrants falls seriously ill. Sean Jr., unable to stand by any longer, insists that they stop and get help. But Sean, desperate to complete the job and get paid, refuses. A heated argument ensues, with Sean Jr. accusing his father of caring more about the boat than the lives of the people on board. The confrontation shakes Sean to his core, forcing him to confront the reality of what they're doing. In the midst of the turmoil, Riley finally speaks up. He tells Sean that they can't go on like this, that they have to do something to help the immigrants, even if it means risking everything. Sean, torn between his loyalty to his crew and his duty to the job, is faced with an impossible choice. But as he looks at the faces of the people who have trusted him with their lives, he knows that there's only one course of action. In a moment of clarity, Sean decides to abandon the plan. He orders the crew to turn the boat around and head for the nearest port, where they can get the immigrants the medical attention they need. It's a risky move. If they're caught, they'll all be arrested and likely lose everything. But for the first time since they set out, Sean feels like he's doing the right thing. The decision is met with mixed reactions. Riley is relieved, seeing it as a chance to redeem themselves. Sean Jr., while still conflicted, respects his father's courage in making such a difficult choice. But the rest of the crew is less certain. They've come this far, and the thought of walking away empty-handed is hard to swallow. As they change course, the tension on board eases, but the danger is far from over. The storm shows no sign of letting up, and the boat is in bad shape. They're running low on fuel, and the engine is close to giving out. Every man on board knows that they're not out of the woods yet. In the final act, the crew's resolve is put to the ultimate test. As they near the coast, they're spotted by a patrol boat, which orders them to stop. Sean is faced with a gut-wrenching decision: surrender and face the consequences, or try to outrun the authorities in a boat that's barely holding together. In a desperate bid for freedom, Sean makes the call to keep going. The chase is intense, with the patrol boat closing in as the Providence pushes its engine to the limit. The crew works frantically to keep the boat running, knowing that one wrong move could spell disaster. Just as it seems like they might make it, the engine finally gives out. The boat comes to a grinding halt, and the patrol boat pulls alongside. The crew is arrested, and the immigrants are taken into custody. As Sean is led away in handcuffs, he looks back at his boat one last time, knowing that it's the end of the line. The film ends on a somber note, with the crew facing the consequences of their actions. Sean is sentenced to prison, his boat seized by the authorities. Riley, while avoiding jail time, is left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life. Sean Jr., disillusioned by the whole experience, decides to leave the village and start anew, determined to find a life that's not defined by the mistakes of his past. True North is a powerful exploration of the moral complexities of survival, a film that asks difficult questions about the choices we make and the price we're willing to pay to protect the things we hold dear. It's a story that resonates long after the credits roll, leaving the audience to ponder the thin line between right and wrong and the true cost of survival.